Call the Thursday, December 3rd work session to order. First item on the agenda, November 19th work session notes. Any changes?
No change.
All right, stand as written. Next item on the agenda, Grow Hayes housing update. Doug Williams. Yes, sir.
Lucky you weren't
Not going
late.
to say the best for last this time.
Certainly not for first. Does this work, Kim?
We'll see.
Well, thank you very much. It's always my pleasure to come and see all you smiling faces, and so
This week.
I appreciate you giving me a few minutes to kind of go over a few of our projects. Been a while since I've given you an official update on the project that the RHID project, so I wanted to do that, as well as talk about a couple of other housing initiatives that we're working on. So what I'd like to cover tonight with you is just the RHID housing development, where we're at on it, kind of what the planned process is for getting it done. Our housing rehab program that we have, I think most of you are familiar with that. We've got a project in Ellis that we're working on, and then try and answer any questions that you might have. As you may recall, you all approved the RHID on June 25th, and the county and the USD had 30 days to veto that project if they chose to. Their veto period ended on July 25th, so at that point in time, we were off to the races. Since that time, we've entered into a contract with Paul Wurtenberger Construction to provide all the infrastructure services. We have 4 developers, what we're calling developers, they're really builders that have committed to the project. Midwest Energy has installed the power poles. The little holdup has been availability of manholes, and so those were to be manufactured this week. And so we're anticipating those to be out next week. M&D's been out there doing some initial excavation, and they've got some holes dug right next to 22nd Street where they're, I assume, going to put some manholes or something. So that you're really going to start seeing some activity out there in the next few weeks. It's been slow to start. You know, I was hoping we'd have houses going up there by now, but one thing I have learned is that these take a long, long time. So you've got to be patient. But at this point in time, we've had a meeting with the engineer and the contractor and all those associated with it, and it looks like a March or April completion of the streets and to where people could actually start building some homes. As you'll recall, there were 38 lots that we had proposed. We ended up with 36 because lots 11 and 12 there were taken out of this phase. They weren't contiguous with the rest of the plan, so they were taken out. So we've got 36 lots that will be developed in phase 1. The developers are Paul Wurtenberger Construction. They're not only doing the street work, but they will build some homes. Homes by Cornerstone, Brian and Dustin Shoemaker, and Platinum Builders. Those are the 4 that stepped up to the plate and said they would each build 4 homes in 18 months. They would build 1 at 175 or under. I doubt it'll be under, but at 175. 1 at 200,000 or under. 1 at 225 or under. And then they'll have a choice of their 4th one at whatever they want to build in that 175 to 225 price range. I wish it was there now because they would sell like hotcakes. I did a little research yesterday. Currently, there are 5 active listings in Ellis County, priced between $175 and $225, and the average year built was 1973. So the average is 48 years old. So it would be great if they were there now, although, as you're probably aware, material costs for homes have skyrocketed in the last 90 to 120 days. And so the builders have continually told me that they're glad it's not right now because they're concerned about hitting that price point. We hope that prices will normalize sometime in the spring and that they'll be back in line with what they were pre-pandemic at some level, and that they can not have any issues hitting those price points. Any questions on that? that development.
Are they the four, so if Paul Wartenberger, they have four that they're committed to, are they all kind of together in 4 lots, or do they pick
I
and
should,
choose which
good
lot,
question,
or-
and I should have brought this slide, and I didn't. We had a meeting where they each selected their 4 lots, and we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple of them chose them all right together. A couple of them spread them out a little bit. We took go back to this. What is that called? The street there, I can't see it. The street that goes in, those lots in yellow, numbers 1 through 10, we have designated those to be no basement lots. We were concerned about lots being, one with the basement slab, one with the basement and drainage issues and that kind of thing. So the builders had a consensus that we should try and group the slabs together. And so 1 through 10 will be slabs. So they each took one in 1 through 10, and then the rest of them are spread out throughout the development. But for the most part, they tried to stay pretty close together.
Are they contracting to sell them ahead of time? If I
They're at
went
least
to them and
talking to
said-
people.
Okay.
I've had quite a bit of interest from individuals who say they are interested in living out there and buying a home. And basically what I have done is explain the development to them and give them all 4 of the contractors' names and ask them to contact the contractors and see what they want to do. I know they're all a little bit hesitant to do custom homes in that price range because it can get away from you. But they're certainly talking to people, and I've had one builder say that they've got all 4 of them sold, but I've heard those kind of things before. I'm not sure that's exactly true, but there's certainly a lot of interest in it, and I just hope that our market next summer is as good as our market is now in terms of demand. I don't think interest rates are going to go anyplace anytime soon, so we should continue to have strong demand based
How
on.
do you market the lots? So you have basically 16 lots now that'll be under construction. If those 4 want to pick up another lot, or could another builder, a 5th builder come in and pick up lots?
We've committed to those 4 builders for phase 1. I have had another builder contact me after we had already gone through this and said, well, how do I get in? And, I didn't feel like we could justify letting somebody in after these 4 had committed to us and committed to this deal. So I said, phase 2, you can absolutely get in, but phase 1 will be restricted to these 4 developers unless things change and they perhaps are willing to let somebody else in. But and they agree to buy the 4. They're going to buy them. Once they buy them, they have to start within 30 days. And once they've gone through 4, they certainly have the option to pick another one and just continue on.
I just have to sit here and be excited. I can't stand it. How long? I've been on the commission 4 years, and a long time before I came on the commission, all we talked about was the housing needs in this community. And we're going to sit here and listen tonight about housing projects that we have needed for so long that they have come to fruition. They are happening. We have builders that are thrilled to be involved with it. Have 4 builders step up and somebody else saying, hey, why not me? Doug, you've just really done an outstanding job with this, and I know you're getting tired of me telling you that, but I'm going to tell you again. I'm going to tell you again. The expectations I had for Grow Hayes when you took over the leadership are certainly being met.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I would second that, absolutely. Thank you, Doug.
The next project, our housing rehab program is a program that was sponsored by the Hansen Foundation. They gave us a grant for $400,000 with which to use to loan out to people who can buy a home in need of repair, fix it up, and then resell it with some caveats. It has to sell for under $155,000, and it has to sell to a homeowner. It wasn't there for a rental deal. And we loan them the money interest-free for 9 months. And so they buy the home, Grow Hayes loans them the money and all the costs to rehab it, the holding costs and things, so they don't have anything invested. And then they have to sell it and liquidate it within this 9-month period. At least that's what they're supposed to do. To date, we've done 12 projects. We're averaging 3 to 4 a year. We currently have 2 active projects, one in Hayes and one in Ellis, so I would encourage you, we have funds for more projects. So if you know anybody that's a fix-up person that would like to do something like that, by all means, send them our way. There's a little bit of it. The challenge is finding a property that you can buy at the right price, fix up, and know that you're going to have enough margin in it to make it all work. But nonetheless, we have funds available. We've been pretty consistent about loaning all the funds out at one time. Right now, it's kind of rare that we would have actually funds available to do about 2 of them. And they've all sold. Once they're done, they're gone. Because you're really buying, in most cases, what amounts to a brand new house for $155,000 or less. So again, hitting that niche in the market that is pretty badly underserved. Any questions on that, the rehab program? Okay. Bring you up to date on a project in Ellis. Some of you may remember, if you've been over to Ellis in the south part of Ellis, Doug Shaw developed about 36 homes down there from 2004 to about 2007 or 8. And he had these lots left over that were never developed. It's just a field now. And he financed this project with a TIF for housing. It's kind of like an RHID, but back then they didn't have an RHID, so it was a TIF. And obviously you guys are familiar with TIFs. This TIF has performed very well, and there's actually a surplus of funds available in this TIF, plus 4 more years of revenue to come in from the tax increment of about $175,000 a year. So in essence, there's enough money to develop the balance of these lots with the funds that are available in this TIF. And so we happened to be talking to Mark Hess, Dan Hess's brother, and he said, I think we might be interested in something like that, because Shaw didn't have any interest in going ahead and doing it. He kind of had his fill of that, and he's on to other things, and so he wasn't interested in doing it. So basically, Hess and Shaw struck a deal where Hess is going to purchase this land. It's under contract right now. He's going to take over with the intent of putting in the streets and developing this property to not only sell lots to individuals, but also for some employee housing, which he has had a problem with in terms of attracting employees and having the proper housing for them. He may build a few houses. He may just let contractors do it or what have you. But it's a good deal for Ellis, a good deal for Hays for that matter, because housing is housing in Ellis County. I believe Ellis, I was told that their school system this year had, I think, 15 kindergartners, and that's down from about 45 a number of years ago, something like that range. So they're concerned about more young families moving to Ellis and having housing for those young families. So I think this will be appropriate. The area in yellow there's infrastructure there already because it runs down the alley, and all those houses to the left of the yellow area are developed. So there's already infrastructure there. The street between the yellow and the red and the purple would have to be put in, and then another street actually would have to be put in that area. So 40 lots, roughly, if I use the math on what the RHID is running, about $30,000 to $35,000 per lot for infrastructure costs, about $1.2 million or so, but that TIF will produce that much in the next 4 or 5 years. So in theory, it should work real well. So that's what's going on there. We've had some glitches and still trying to jump through some hoops. As I said before, none of this happens as fast as you would like it to happen. But it is under contract, and I think all the parties are still committed to do it.
That's good for the workforce.
Yes,
working too.
yes, absolutely.
Good news.
One thing I didn't have on my agenda that I wanted to cover tonight is this retiree community concept that we've been working on. As you'll recall from our development opportunity profile, retirees are a significant economic driver in Ellis County, the largest economic driver. And we believe that they represent an opportunity for us. Not only we want to make sure we keep the ones we have, but we believe that Hays is a pretty good place to live, and if we had the right things in place, maybe some retirees would want to move here. Certainly some that are maybe ready to be out of other places in western Kansas, but also some other places. Maybe somebody in New York is tired of being in New York and battling the pandemic and all the things that come with it, and wants to be out in the wide open spaces. But one thing we lack is retiree-friendly housing. We just don't have housing that is specifically designed and built for retirees. So it's our belief that if we can develop some housing of this nature, we can not only have the opportunity to attract some retirees, keep the ones we have, but also get some of those people who are trapped in their big homes right now that want to downsize but just can't find the right thing. And so that frees up other inventory in the market as well. So that's kind of the concept. This was the economic driver study that showed the impact that retirees have on our local economy.
Doug, can you provide me a copy of that, please?
Sure.
I've been looking for
Sure.
that. Thanks.
And so that gets us to the point where, okay, where would we put such a development? And we believe that there is a perfect site to the north of the hospital. Hayes Medical Center's right here. Canterbury right here, 27th Street right here. Hayes Medical Center owns all of the land that is outlined in red there. And they have a willingness, they have no plans for it, and they are willing to talk about what this would be used for to develop. They like the idea of this whole concept. And so we've been talking to them, and I think they're in. We've also talked about including in this, the other missing piece when we look at retirees is some sort of a community center, retiree center. We're familiar with the meal site out by the airport, and it has its shortcomings based on location and where it is and what it is. I think we can do a whole lot better with some sort of a multi-generational community center out there that could be a component of this development. We would tie into the Hayes Medical Center walking trail back here because it right off of there, and you get into Hayes Medical Center's walking trail, which of course is soon to be tied into the multi-user access path that you all are putting in from the rec over to Hayes Medical Center's path. So another nice tie-in. Hayes Med is willing to talk about doing the maintenance on the grounds there and whatnot, and possibly even meals out of the cafeteria, transportation for people back and forth to the clinics, just a lot of things. The Center for Health Improvement right there. It's really the perfect location. So we've talked to a company out of Wichita. This is not a design for that site, but this is some of the work they have done, and this is what we're talking about right now. We're at the point where it's time to get somebody involved who can give us a site plan and say, this is how you might want to lay it out, and give us 2 or 3 different thought processes on that. And so this is an example of the kind of work they do. Very well thought of company. They've got a lot of experience in these type of projects. And so they will take the site. They'll say, okay, here's where we ought to put residential areas. And the vision is this would be everything from a 1-bedroom townhouse, main floor townhouse for a little old lady who's widowed or something like that, doesn't need much, all the way up to a very nice garden home that could back up into the trees and somebody could build or occupy, that would be high end, basically. So we're at the point where we're talking about site design. We've got a contract. We haven't entered into it yet. We've got a contract. I believe Hayes Med is willing to engage this design firm for the initial design work. We've got to figure out who the players are, and by that I mean we got to figure out what's Hayes Med's role in this? Do they want to be part of the developer? Do they just want to sell the land? Do they, what do they want to do? They have an interest in some of the space for some housing for locums and doctors that they bring in. They currently rent a number of apartments around town, and they could see consolidating those people in a location like that be a lot better, a lot handier for them. Then we've got to figure out feasibility. It's all great when it's on the blueprint, but you got to figure out how it works, how you pay for it, what the infrastructure costs would be, and that kind of thing. And then we've got to come up with a community center concept and a community center design. I rambled through it pretty quick. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of this.
I like that last one. I mean, if
It-
feasibility's there, I like that.
Yeah, it really excites me. I think that's a difference maker in our community. I think the RHID development is too, but this one I really think could have a lot more impact than even that one could have.
We talk about the population bleed from western Kansas, and it really is necessary to put up a roadblock on I-70 to stop them from going farther east. And I think that would be a great roadblock.
It sure would be a start.
It certainly would.
You know, Sandy, and we've talked about this many times, I have people in my store in downtown Hayes and from bigger cities, and they can't believe how much Hayes has to offer. And if we could offer something like that, maybe those people from those bigger cities would want to move here. I think that's where we have to be thinking now.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the, we certainly don't like to think of benefits from the pandemic, but I think that certainly is one. And Doug said New York, but, there's Kansas City, and there's the cities east that are just tired of it.
Colorado.
And be very anxious to have a nice opportunity to move to a great community that has good things happening all over, not just in our downtown, but all over the place.
Well, that's what I like. COVID's kind of set everybody back, but, we got to, like I've said before, step on the pedal and be ready to go once it's time, and that's good.
We believe Hayes is a safe place to live.
It is.
It has a lot to offer. Housing and activities are the two areas where we feel like we could improve, and I think this would address both.
And I think that holds us back from a lot of other things, the housing.
Right.
Exciting.
Toby, you might be able to answer a couple of my questions here about that. That development or that potential area right now it's not in city limits. It would need to be annexed, correct?
I don't believe it's in the city limits right now, so it would have to be platted, annexed, zoned. It might be zoned, I'm not sure. I'd have to pull up the GIS map to see for sure.
And we have water on that side of Canterbury, but not sewer, correct?
I believe we have both there on
Is there both?
Canterbury.
We just-
Canterbury, I think we have full utilities for it.
Okay.
Now, inside the site, utilities have to be put in, but I think the main infrastructure exists there to handle water and sewer both. I'll get back to you on that. I'll shoot an email to confirm it, but I'll check tomorrow. But I think we have water and sewer.
Because didn't we just have some people north of that area tie into
Yeah,
our sewer
we did.
system last
So
year?
that was the water side. If you,
Water side, okay.
you go back a little bit, there was a water main that was kind of a dead end main right over here.
Right,
And then we have a dead end main right here. And so we put a loop in that these residents paid for, that they were then able to tap into and pay outside water rates. They paid for the loop. We get the benefit of having the loop in and not having a dead end. So for flow and water quality, it's good for us. But I think water and sewer are both along Canterbury, but I will confirm.
Yeah, because that house on the north or 27th in Canterbury there is on private septic.
I think that's by choice.
Yeah, I think that was my choice. Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, I just didn't know where it began and ended. See how much.
I think that was one of
Quicker we
those
can make it
situations where it would have imposed a hardship during annexation to make them hook up to sewer. And so there's an agreement to where when the septic system has to be replaced, then they have to hook up to sewer. That's the way they typically did it back then.
Okay, thank you.
I think the yellow line indicates the city limits. What's annexed?
Yes.
Yeah, so in this, it's the blue shading is in the city limits. So everything that's green shaded is outside the city
I
limits.
didn't think about that. That's a good point.
I kind of have comments. I don't really have any further questions, but yeah, the number one thing I think a lot that comes up about Hayes is housing and what's going on with housing. And I think in the last year, again, we're starting to see the ball move a little bit. So anybody that's paying attention, the RHID project, the first kind of here in Hayes, we have the potential for a retiree type housing project. Washington School with low-income apartment housing issues, and again, Ellis, the city of Ellis, and then so I think we're seeing the housing start to be tackled in the areas that need to be addressed, and we've also seen the housing market kind of open up during the pandemic, I guess, with houses moving and construction starting and those kind of things. So I feel pretty good about where we are right now as far as addressing what people believe is an issue. And I know Doug said this, I've said it before, if we, in the next year or two, we're still complaining about housing, I don't think it's because we didn't try to address it. It's probably not an issue that people think it is, but I think we're addressing it, and I think it is an issue. I think it's being addressed, so. These are exciting projects.
On the interest rates right now.
Yeah.
That's a huge driver.
Absolutely.
Take advantage of it, yep. Anything
Good
else?
stuff.
Thank you, Doug, appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug.
Next item on the, can't even talk. Next item on the agenda, City of Hayes, Hayes Recreation Commission joint meeting. Roger Bixman, Jeff Boyle.
Good evening, Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks. Each year we conduct a joint meeting. With the pandemic going on, we kind of got a smaller crowd tonight, so it's just Roger and I. But we conduct a joint meeting to discuss the pool operations and also the Bickelschmidt Sports Complex. This year, as we've talked about here, we've mentioned COVID a lot. Both locations were hit by COVID, obviously, with reduced participation and so on and so forth. So this year at the pool, we did drop roughly about 16,000 participants this year. Opened up, I think, about a week later than normal, 2 weeks later than normal. You know, had some weather days as we normally do and those sort of things, but overall we were down quite a bit at the pool, and part of the way through the season, you know, with COVID going on, Hayes Rec came forward and offered. Normally, we have an agreement where Hayes Rec pays 50-50 up to a $26,000 stop loss. Well, this year Hayes Rec stepped forward and said they'll drop the stop loss for this year because of the COVID going on and match 50-50 with the city. So, hats off to the Recreation Commission for doing that. Normally, with the year we had, normally we would have, on the old contract with the 26,000 stop loss, we would have paid, city would have paid $47,106. This year with Hayes Rec stepping forward and helping us out, we're only being requested to pay $36,553. Again, you know, everything went pretty smooth at the pool. We did have some pumping problems that hit us right off the get-go, but we scrambled and got that taken care of. The new water feature that was put in a couple years ago has been an excellent benefit for the kids down there and adults. A lot of adults playing on that. You know, the total loss to the city down there, including gas, electric, is $119,144. So that's a lot lower than in years past. But again, it's because of the reduced season and those sort of things. And then, of course, and that does include, if approved, the payment to Hayes Rec for $36,553. Going the wrong way here. Was I going the right way?
Going backwards.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Don't listen to Kim.
Kim? So this slide here shows you the attendance by month for the last 4 years, including 2020 this year. So you can see that we're down in participants. June is still our best month for as far as participants go. Always seems to be that way. This is the pool attendance summary going back clear back to 2000. I might also mention that Wilson Pool, as you're aware, was closed this year, so due to COVID. So we had a few little bit higher participants had that been open, but I think it was still going to be. We've probably seen a drastic drop in visitation up there as well. So this is kind of a breakdown, revenue over expenses for Hayes Rec, showing a loss of $73,106. Again, Hayes Rec's their stop loss, they waived it for 2020, so you can see the the equal amount being paid there at the bottom, and that would be the request to pay them back. Little financial history going back to 2014, and give you an idea where we're at. The HRC total loss column towards the middle there, that is the total loss that Hayes Rec experienced. When you throw the city's amount in, obviously that's the part that gets cut in half or stop lost at $26,000. And then the far right column is a total cost to the city with the HRC payment. So that's what we have paid over the years. There's some anomalies in there. We've talked about this in the past, but like in 2018, that does include the cost of that new play feature that was at the Aquatic Park. So there's a few little anomalies in there, but that's you can see the trends there. So your options are to approve the request to pay the Hayes Recreation Commission $36,553.44, or provide further guidance on how staff should proceed. Again, that is in our contract to pay them that, so I think from a legal standpoint, we're obligated to get that paid to them. And if you approve this going forward, that would be the action requested for next week. Take any pool questions we might have.
One thing I'll say is thanks to the rec, and I know we've told you this before, for stepping up. We were able to continue to keep it open a little bit, towards the end, and just thank you guys for working together on that.
Good group to work with.
Did we change anything as far as how much it costs to get into the pool this year, or anything with that?
You maintain the season passes at 35, right?
Early birds, 35, and then once that early bird's over, it's 41.
It is really appreciated, the stepping up and eliminating the stopgap this year. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but every time you can save $10,000, $11,000, that's a big deal. The collaboration and the way you guys all work together, very much appreciated.
And I was wrong, answer your question. So this year, we did pass at 35.
Oh, all year, okay.
Normally, we would go to early bird 35, but
Any other questions on the pool? Bickel-Schmidt Sports Complex. Showing the revenue, direct expenses to HRC and administrative expenses. This year they did have a loss. Part of that is COVID. Participation was down. Some tournaments were canceled or rescheduled, or I guess they weren't rescheduled. They were absolutely canceled. Hayes Rec did step up and help us, the city, pay for some concrete around the playground unit, the new playground unit on the southwest quad. So that was part of their loss. And then also they paid for and installed several concrete handicap stalls in the center portion of the parking lots, right kind of by the northeast quad entrance, for folks that they're using that area. They get them a little bit closer to the northeast quad. So that's the majority of the reason for the loss for this year. So this kind of shows a summary going back to 2012. I think in 2012 and 13, there was some equipment bought right off the get-go there to help at the facility with some of their activities. There's a summary of the total cost to the city. This is actual costs that we, the city, take on, whether it be, or not whether it be, but for maintenance and for red dirt infields, bringing dirt in and having contractors grade that to the right levels, and salaries and those sorts of things. Electricity, that is a high-use facility as far as electricity, so we're on high demand charges. So when I say 2020 year-to-date, there will be a couple more electric bills coming through that probably be in the $2,000 range, $1,800 to $2,000 range. So that is a year-to-date number, but well, you think I get that arrow right? Basically, I might also mention, I know in the past we always like to kind of hear where we're at on the sales tax reserves. We should end this year with a reserve of about $962,000. that should get us another 4 to 5 years of maintenance at the complex. You may recall that originally when the sales tax reserves were put in, it was to get us by for 10 years. Well, we're going to far exceed that. And of course, that is pending, be a maintenance only. 4 to 5 years would be maintenance only. So if we start drawing out of that money to do other capital things, obviously the number of years would go down accordingly. But considering what we went through, I think complex was smooth this year as usual, and everything went well. And looking forward to next year, hopefully be COVID free.
One thing I'll say is, yeah, we lost some tournaments, but we also had some tournaments were some of the biggest tournaments we've ever had. And I spoke to many people that came from, I know Colorado was a lot of them, and they'd never been here before, and said they'll definitely be back. So once this is over, I think maybe we've got some good traction there. And knock on wood, when that all went down, we didn't really have a lot of COVID issues here and stuff.
didn't.
And there was a lot of people in town. So I think that was a positive for Hayes. It's unfortunate a lot of the local rec, sports had to be canceled, but it's the right thing to do, and I think this will set us up for the future and hopefully get this more in a positive like it has been. But thank you again for the tournaments you guys hosted. They were flawless, and I my daughter played in a couple out there, and you just hear people talk about it. And now with all the updates we're doing, I think it's going to be even better.
And I did mention before when we talked about
Come up to the mic.
Sorry. Roger Bixman, Superintendent of Hayes Rec, if you don't know. But we've got our foot in the door with a national USSSA Girls Fast Pitch director, and so that will help us out recruiting tournaments here. We do have a national invitational tournament July 13th it's like a 4 or 5 day tournament. And he's a great recruiter of like the Colorado teams you mentioned and some Oklahoma teams. So he does a great job of getting teams here with AJ, our complex director. So we're excited about the future for those, and especially if we can get turf down the road on the infields, they'll help us with the guaranteed play. So that's great. But as you can see there, we did, part of our biggest revenue loss were for the complex. We had our gate is where you collect quite a bit of money for gate, and we didn't collect gate this year. 3 of our baseball tournaments were canceled during the pandemic. We had 1 girls fast pitch tournament canceled, several adult tournaments, softball tournaments canceled. We did a couple tournaments. There was a couple just team gate fee that we collected. And then also our spring sports, we were 2 weeks into our season and had to cancel it. And so we already had expenses with the balls that we give to all the kids already. And so, all those households got credited and used that credit in other sports throughout the year. So
I do have one question, and I've got a lot of complaints during the year, do you have the scoreboard problems fixed?
Well, it's mostly a controller problem. I don't think it's the scoreboards themselves. Part of the problem is they don't maintain a charge. So we've gone to plugging them in because there's outlets in the dugouts. So we've worked on that and got those. And I know AJ and Jake Helget, the ball field foreman, have worked on that. So, most of it's not, like I said, the scoreboard. It's the controller itself, and we're constantly sending those back in to get them either refurbished or new parts on them. So, but
Well,
I
that
know
was
towards fall season, I think we were using them.
That was the biggest thing that I'd
Yeah,
been
sure.
hearing was that. So, that was very frustrating for a lot of people.
Yeah,
So,
and they've never worked
hope we've
very
got
well
that
since day
taken
one.
care of.
We've had problems with them. So,
Thank you.
yep.
What is the, what's the replacement on those?
Oh gosh, I don't know for sure. I'd hate to guess. I really don't know. I
'Cause
know.
I agree with you. We were out there several times, and many times no score,
Yeah.
scoreboard. And I know you guys have said it's operational error, but when you're in a tournament, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
when it doesn't work. But
Yeah. Like I said, they have to stay plugged in order to work most of the time, and that's not what they're designed for. They're supposed to be wireless, but the batteries don't hold the charge. So.
I know they try to get me to use, and I stay away.
Yeah.
I don't.
But you are looking into it to see.
I think Jeff might be able to answer this.
We're going to tie in some new outlets at the backstop this year for them to get by for this year. And I believe it's 2022, we're budgeted for new scoreboards. So they have been problematic. It's That's the reason I don't have any hair left. Yeah, Roger and I have had numerous conversations over these scoreboards, and it is a controller problem. We've tried to get, there's conduit running from the scoreboards up to the backstop, but we're being advised that they can't pull cables through that because it's already got too many wires in it. So we were hoping to fix it that way, where we have a direct connection to the scoreboards, but that didn't pan out either. I think with the small cost of getting some outlets on that backstop where the guys sit and run the controllers, I think that'll help for next year, and then I think we can address it fully the following year.
Are we gonna look at that before we put the turf in?
Before we put the turf in,
Yes, so that we don't put the turf in and then tear it back up to
we will
correct this
definitely
problem.
not be tearing turf back up.
Well, I am just asking, so that everybody's aware of this.
We can definitely look at it, yes. We'll definitely look, see if we need to put conduit in or what we need to do. I need to visit with Roger. I think there's two brands out there that are probably what we want to go with as far as quality and guarantees. And so I think between those two companies, we can get our questions answered pretty quick and be ready to roll with it.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure.
But no, it's a good point, Ron.
That turf in, if we got to put conduit, that needs to go down before it,
Right
even
then
if
and
we
there,
don't
yes.
do it. Replace those at that time. We need to have it in place so that we don't turn around and, redo something that we've done.
Yes, 100% agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on the complex? Okay.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Next item on the agenda, multi-use award of bid, Mr. Boyle.
Back in 2008, we completed by the time it was called a hike and bike master plan, not the best name for them type of trails. We call them multi-use paths now. We've already, since that study was done, we've already installed about 2.7 miles worth, referring to the area along the dike area along Fort Hays State over to Frontier Park. And then also a section along 41st Street was done properly to match the width and everything of the Southern Trail. So this kind of gives an overview. It's not exactly like the 2008 map was. We've altered it a little bit based on some property ownership and those sort of things. Just trying to, the less obstacles we have to go through to get this kind of stuff done, the better off we are. And there were some other opportunities there that presented some nice changes. But for tonight, the trail section that we're talking about is on the far right-hand side of the slide. It's the blue area. There, kind of goes from Hayes Medical Center, follows Anthony Drawdown through Kiwanis Park, over through Hayes High School, and connects to the Hayes Rec Building. So that's the trail section that we would be talking about tonight. It was part of the original plan, although this is altered just slightly, just to make it flow better. But was identified in the plan as a good connecting trail. Took bids on it. These are how the bid tabs, how the bids came in. As you can see, J Corporation came in at $390,871. That's roughly $59,000 under budget. Back up a little bit here. On the trail itself, there's several different areas. There's some fairly high traffic crossings. Those would have flashing beacons on them, of course. So we're talking 22nd Street, talking 13th, Canterbury, down at the very end there by Hayes Rec, and then one area coming north out of Hayes High School. I believe it's called the Golden Belt Drive going into Hayes High School. There'd be areas there, flashing beacons, pavements, markings. Along Anthony, there would be some elevated delineators separating roadways from the trail. So reseeding, those sort of things going on. So, and the nice thing about this trail is from a connectivity point, depending on what direction we want to go, there's already additional trails that would be going south out of Hayes Rack that would be easy to connect to, that would take you over to Chatola Ditch and then back north. Most of that area is city property, so it's a fairly simple, it'll be a very simple, easy area to add on to. So this trail is a pretty significant part of our system as we look to the total plan or the total layout. So definitely be something that would serve the east part of town right now, because they typically basically just don't have any trails over there at all.
Jeff, by the high school, I know there was talk they were wanting lights there where it crosses the road. Is that?
There is lighting, yes, and on the north side of Hayes High School. Hayes High requested that have some pedestrian lighting in there. That is also part of the bid.
How about that along, just south of the motor vehicle department? Is that on the south side of the street?
That is on the south side of the street.
So we'll have some kind of lighting there also?
There's already I believe, a street light at that intersection. I believe it's there. It might be out in front of the Division of Motor Vehicles. But there's no pedestrian lighting in that section at all, as far as along the trail.
Well, I'm talking about crossing the street.
From Hayes Rec over?
No, I'm talking about when you go to cross that street there and going north out of Hayes High, sometimes those kids come out of there pretty fast.
There are lights on that Golden Belt Drive going north out of Hayes High. There are. And then there's also crossings on 13th Street where it crosses 13th. That is also,
You're talking pedestrian lights there?
those are flashing beacons right here. This whole stretch of trail along here has street lights.
Okay.
There's, I think, 3 of them along there.
But I'm talking about pedestrian crossing on Hayes High, where you cross the street.
There's one on the north exit to the parking lot, there's not one on the south.
That's what I was.
Yes,
thinking.
okay, that's correct, yes.
That's what I was,
And that was the request of the high school.
is not to put a pedestrian crossing there?
They were more concerned with the traffic going north because of the length and visibility of the traffic going south.
But will there be any kind of marking there that there's gonna be pedestrians
So that
crossing?
pavement marking, yes.
Signs?
Yes. And pavement markings.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So we're pleased with the bids that came in. Again, J Corp was low. They meet all the requirements of the RFP, and we recommend them for the project if you choose to move it forward. Options commission has. And then this would be the action requested if you want to move it forward.
We got any kind of a timeline on this?
Right now, it looks like they can't start till May 1st, and it has to be done October 31st.
It'd be great if they got that where you crossing the high school done before school starts next fall.
Yes, agree.
Both places, so that we're not inhibiting traffic in and out of Hayes High.
I think we have the ability to see that through, so.
That would be nice.
Mhm.
All right.
They could start earlier. I don't think they were too ambitious to promise us that.
Well, and I understand that, just thinking about next fall as
Sure.
far as
Yeah, that could be,
traffic
that would definitely be an issue.
for Hayes High. Okay.
Moving on.
Move on.
Okay. Moving on.
Thank you very much.
So I'm on the agenda, golf course pro shop manager contract. Mr. Boyle, again.
As you are aware, at the golf course, we have Jeremy Coulter as our pro shop manager. Entered into a contract with him on January 1st, 2018. It does expire this year on December 31st. Jeremy's asked for a 3-year contract extension. There were a few changes that he asked for. He asked that because of COVID, mainly, asked that there be some language added. Those should be in your packets, the red line copies. Asked that there be some language added for concerning hours of operation and the need for the city assistance for unforeseen pandemics and/or disaster type things. That's what we did this year. We actually, the city had to step in and do a little bit of reconciliation for him on certain days, which was not that big a deal. So I don't have a problem with that change. Did ask for an increase in his monthly salary from $2,000 to $2,500 per month, and increase in his yearly bonus from $2,400 to $3,000. Requested that we add language for the city to do minor upgrades in the pro shop when necessary, so tables, chairs, lighting, those sort of things. I bring up lighting as an example because the lighting we have out there is antique, and it's time for it to be updated. So those are some of the things that we'd like to take care of and make sure we're staying on top of. Don't have a problem with that. We've been doing this, we just haven't overdone it, and it's probably time to pick up a few of those other items that need to be done.
Jeff, for the minor upgrades, though, are we gonna have a price limit on that, or?
Well, you know, our budget's going to dictate what we do. So in the contract, he's supposed to get with me by February 1st of each year to provide a list of things that he deems necessary at the pro shop. And at that point, we would find out what the cost might be and request budgeting or request funding if it's available and if it's reasonable and necessary. So that's how we would approach it. You know, if there's anything this year, I think there's a few chairs that need to be replaced. I think we can absorb that in our budget and deal with it. But that would be the plan of attack, is to make sure that he's getting that information to us by February 1st so we can include it in the budget. Last thing there is add language that the pro shop manager be given sufficient time to remove inventory and possessions in the event of a termination of agreement. Basically, he just saying if the city does decide to terminate an agreement for some reason, he'd like to have time to get his stuff out of there. So that wouldn't have been an issue and isn't an issue, but I don't see a problem with adding it to the contract. So options are approve the 3-year contract as presented, do nothing, provide staff with further direction. Our recommendation is to approve a new 3-year contract with Jeremy with those contract changes.
Moving on?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Seven Hills Park Green Space.
Toby Doherty, City Manager. The mayor requested that City Commission have a brief discussion on green space at Seven Hills Park. This is the park location at 33rd and, is that Hillcrest? This is the park in its current form. It's 5.2 acres. This shows the developed area and the undeveloped area, so we have about 120,000 square feet of undeveloped area. You note the very large area to the left that is utilized for people that just do impromptu soccer, football, things like that. This is Colin's artwork. He put this, and actually this whole thing's Colin's artwork. I can't take credit for it.
That's a great idea.
But just showing the scale of the current open space in the park. And I should back up a little bit. The reason the mayor asked to put this on is he's had some concerns from residents in the area about if the Arc Park achieves their full concept for their layout, that there will be a lack of true open space in this park. So this is the concept that the Arc Park group brought forward to the governing body, and this shows what their full layout would be. Right now, they have received the go-ahead from the City Commission for Phase 1, which is the accessible playground. Phase 2, which is the splash pad, and city staff is working right now on the parking lot engineering. That will go out for bids and be brought back to the commission hopefully sometime after the first of the year. And they have not received formal permission for Phase 3, which is the accessible field. But as you can see, if the accessible field is built, the green space is limited then in the park. The green space is very fragmented. There's no wide open green space. So with that, I will turn it over to the mayor because you were the one that asked for this to be brought up.
Yeah, and I talked to Toby yesterday. the concern is, you go by there quite often, there's, kids playing soccer, or frisbee, football. That being said, I mean, I'm all for the Arc Park. I think it's a great idea, but, I've had people come up to me like, there's a lot of, not only travel aid, but rec teams, because it's hard to find places to have soccer practice or, different practices. And I talked to Mr. Bixman today, and it sounds like if the baseball field was done, there's the ability for you could play on that. I mean, have a practice on there if it wasn't scheduled. So that seemed to, I guess, ease my questions, because you drive by there quite a bit, and it's not just young kids. There's adults throwing football around, and that part of town, there's really nothing else, and that was my only concern. Seeing that no back behind the baseball field once it's done, I mean, there's still some area. It's not as big as it is now, but I hope it all gets done. But it's just concerned that there's not space in that area.
Colin did have one more slide. It showed the proximity to Rolling Hills Park, which does have open space. It's a relatively undeveloped park, and then USD 489 has a lot of open space north of Roosevelt School.
So a question I have is, there is goalposts on the Seven Hills, the soccer goalposts.
Mhm.
Could those be moved over there to where the frisbee golf is? I don't even know if there's room. Would it be in the way of the frisbee
I think
golf?
it'd be in the
Okay,
way.
okay. I was just going.
I would be I'm still very much in favor of all phases of the Arc Park
too.
at the baseball field, even probably as much as anything else, because I see it as an economic development thing. I don't think there are accessible baseball fields, and we would bring teams around from other areas. It's kind of like the Special Olympics coming to Hayes.
Yep.
I think there'd be opportunity with that type of activity on that ball field. I don't know that it's tomorrow. I know they're working on it, pretty diligently. There are people up to and including the Royals that have an interest in doing this, and so I'd be hard pressed. Having said that, the one complaint I've had about parks and areas is exactly what the mayor said. People there was a difficulty in finding places to practice. And I don't know if we should look at that differently, if we should set our sights on something in particular for practice fields. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know there have been a lot of complaints about that over time.
And there's always plenty for rec, because that always comes first. But as these tournaments
teams.
get bigger, there's more and more travel league teams,
Yep.
which, brings other people to town, and that's where the struggle begins. And I think we need to look at everybody on this if we can.
Good point.
But if there's not a game going on in the baseball field, I don't know why we.
Yeah, if it can be utilized, that's
So from our
fantastic.
vantage point, we wouldn't view this as a locked, inaccessible facility. This would be
Right.
like every one
Right.
of our other ball fields. And so Hayes Rec would probably do the scheduling for leagues. But when a league isn't scheduled, anybody can go mess around or practice or whatever on a field.
Hadn't thought about that, so it's really adding a practice field for all intents and purposes.
It's not real big, but it's a place.
I've got a question either for Jeff or Roger. I guess we'll start with Jeff. Could you go back to the trail layout on the?
That requires arrow buttons.
Kim, would you assist him?
The overall view, or
The smaller one of yes, that one right there. I was wondering, on Kiwanis Park out there, we have, our trail's gonna come down, and on the other side of the trees that are out there are 2 baseball fields there, and I don't know if those ever get used. If those could be converted, taken out, or maybe that leveled out a little bit, and then we would have a big area for practice fields.
also keep in mind across that ditch, east of the red line, the city owns that entire bottom area over there where the alfalfa's at.
Exactly, but we kind of need that for our buffalo feed and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the impact of what it could be would be much bigger than alfalfa. think-
Show me where you're referring to.
But I just thought for starting out, where those two baseball fields.
Right,
Oh.
right there, that whole bottom, I don't remember the acreage. I want to say it was 7 to 10 acres.
Wow.
It's not perfectly level. It could be. It does take on water during flood events, but that's standard for soccer and facilities, that don't have a lot of amenities in them other than just turf. So for soccer practicing, that would be a ideal location if we wanted to,
We'd have to go in and
or
plant-
football.
And plant, buffalo in there.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, short term, that in Seven Hills, if you go out and look at, or not Seven Hills, Kiwanis, if
Kiwanis.
you go look out there at those baseball fields, I know there is a slope to it, but, small slope, but there again, it'd be someplace to practice.
Yeah, it's just practice.
They were brought to their attention.
Oh, yeah.
Do they use that? Okay. I just haven't seen anybody out there, and then there was, like this year, there was a lot of ruts through there from the water running through there, so it didn't look like anybody had been using it whatsoever.
It's quite a slope on those fields.
Yeah, I mean,
it
there is
is.
a slope, yeah. I've been out there,
Yeah, there's a 3-hole frisbee
Oh, is
to
it?
the north end.
range right just on the west side of the red line.
Yes, yes.
So that would also
yes.
come into play there as well.
Forgot
But
about that.
very few people know about it, so.
But I
That's just
think if it's an
idea.
issue that's being brought up, I mean, I could throw out some of these areas like this that could maybe in the future be used for,
Man, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean,
or-
sometimes it's just an open space. It doesn't have to be
Right.
Right.
fancy.
right.
Yep.
Just have a
No
nice-
stickers and no holes, and that's, I mean,
Right.
really,
You know,
that's,
That about
stickers,
covers
We
it.
all deal with it.
Kids like it easy nowadays.
We used to play in jeans, so.
So the parents-
No, that's a good one. Like I said, guys, I'm not trying, I love the Arc Park, I'm excited about it, but it's just concerning to me losing the open space, because it's not just kids that play up there. You see adults throwing football or frisbee and stuff, and it's good to see getting people outside, so.
It gives us an opportunity to discuss and find
Yeah.
some alternatives.
Absolutely, yep. So that's all I had, guys. So, anything else for that, or good? Okay. Commissioner Melick,
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Burgess? Wow. She won't. Commissioner Ritter?
Sorry, I got nothing to.
Commissioner Jacobs?
One of the things that we've talked about since we began revitalizing our downtown is we would understand and realize the success when we would see business turnover. One would leave and another one would come in. And I think Hayes Post covered very well. I was very sad yesterday to read about Gutch's actually was closing, because it is one of my very favorite places. And I have a great deal of respect for Kenny Gutchuck and Diane and the entrepreneurial spirit he's had in our community. But then to turn around today and know he's putting another one in, and I love the way he said it, it's time for defiance. And I think that was a really good idea. And that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in this community is what makes us who we are. And it's not just Kenny and Diane. I could make a long list. They're just ones that hit the paper this week. But I want to congratulate them, not only on the wonderful success of Gutch's, but continuing to believe in this community and in our downtown. And I congratulate them on their next move.
Absolutely. 16 years, I believe,
Yep.
there, and he's
Yep.
had many other businesses, so absolutely.
Costa Diablo should stay.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to him on that. So. I got
That's all.
nothing. We're done.